One lazy Sunday morning, my phone buzzed a message from a woman I didn't know. Alice. At first, I thought it was a mistake, some spam or someone who'd gotten the wrong person. But when I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. The first line alone gripped me like a vice. I think we need to talk about your wife and my husband. I remember feeling my pulse pounding in my ears. A sick feeling started to creep up my spine. The kind you get when you know something terrible is about to happen. My hands were trembling as I opened the message, my mind racing to make sense of what was happening. She said her husband, Bill, had been cheating on her, and as she dug through his phone, his messages, she found out who it had been with. My wife, Ella. In that moment, it felt like my chest was caving in, like the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. I had known about the affair 2 years ago. Ella had confessed. She told me it was a one-night mistake. A drunken, reckless decision. One bad night at a housewarming party. She had broken down in tears, telling me she hated herself for it, and like a fool, I believed her. But now Alice was telling me something I wasn't prepared for. It wasn't just one time, she typed. They had an affair for 5 months. 5 months. Not one night, not one mistake, but a full-fledged affair that stretched across 5 long, deceptive months. I read the words over and over again, trying to wrap my head around them. I couldn't. It was like my brain was refusing to process what I was seeing. I felt numb, like my whole body was shutting down, trying to protect me from the emotional wreckage that was about to hit. Are you sure? I typed back, not knowing what else to say. Maybe Alice had it wrong. Maybe this was some sick misunderstanding. She couldn't mean what I thought she meant. It had to be a mistake. Her response was swift and cold. They slept together over 10 times. I have the proof. There it was. The truth, blunt and devastating. The affair I thought I had already dealt with, the affair I thought I had moved past, was so much more than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't just a drunken mistake. It was a calculated, repeated betrayal. Over 10 times. For 5 months. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling like the biggest fool in the world. The room around me blurred as I tried to remember everything Ella had told me 2 years ago. The tears, the apologies, the promises. The way she had sworn that it had been one night, one regrettable night, and that she would never hurt me like that again. I had believed her. I had chosen to forgive her, to give her the benefit of the doubt, thinking we could rebuild what we had. And now? Now, it was all unraveling before my eyes. Let me take you back to the beginning. 2 years ago, my wife, Ella, came to me and admitted that she had cheated on me. She was crying, sobbing actually, and said she had to tell me the truth because the guilt was eating her alive. I remember the weight of her words crashing down on me. My stomach twisted into knots as she told me that it had happened with a coworker, Bill, at a housewarming party. It was a night she'd stayed out late. I remember that vividly. She hadn't come home until 4 a.m., and I'd been worried sick, texting her over and over, asking if she was okay, if she needed me to come pick her up. But she didn't answer. When she finally did come home, she said she'd just been drinking too much, lost track of time. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? There were no signs, no reason to suspect anything out of the ordinary. We had always had a strong relationship, or at least I thought we did. But now, 2 years later, I can't stop wondering how much of it was real and how much was just an illusion I had built up in my mind. That night, when she confessed, she told me it was just a drunken mistake. A terrible, one-time lapse in judgment. She said she'd hated herself for it the moment it happened. She couldn't even look at me as she told me the story, her hands shaking, her voice cracking with every word. I remember feeling like my entire world was crumbling. We had been married for 5 years, together for 7. I thought I knew her better than anyone else in the world. But in that moment, I realized how little I really knew. My first instinct was to leave her. I had always said that cheating was a hard line for me, a deal breaker. No exceptions. But Ella, she seemed so genuine in her remorse. And she hadn't been caught, she had told me voluntarily. I thought that meant something. I thought it was a sign that she truly regretted what she had done. To show me she was serious about fixing things, she even quit her job. She didn't want to be around Bill anymore, and quitting was her way of proving to me that she was committed to rebuilding our marriage. I didn't ask her to quit. In fact, at the time, I had been more focused on divorce and was worried that if she didn't have a job, I'd end up paying more in alimony. But she insisted. I couldn't help but feel torn. Part of me wanted to walk away, but another part of me, the part that remembered my own past, felt like I had no right to judge. When I was 19, I cheated on a girlfriend. It was nothing compared to what Ella did, just a stupid, drunken kiss at a party, but it was still cheating. And my girlfriend at the time had forgiven me. Shouldn't I, of all people, know what it means to make a mistake and be forgiven? So I made a decision that surprised even me. I forgave her. But not without conditions. We signed a postnup. I made it clear that if anything like this ever happened again, she would lose everything: the house, the car, alimony. She agreed, almost eagerly. We both had independent legal advice, and when we signed it, I felt like I had some kind of protection. If she ever betrayed me again, at least I wouldn't be left with nothing. For the next 2 years, things seemed okay. Not perfect, but okay. We went to couples therapy. Ella worked hard to regain my trust, or at least that's what I believed. Slowly, I started to feel like maybe we had moved past it. Maybe we could really rebuild our marriage. And then Alice's message shattered everything. That weekend, I confronted Ella. I could barely keep my anger in check as I told her about Alice's message. The look on her face was all the confirmation I needed. She knew. She knew I had finally uncovered the full truth. 5 months. Over 10 times. I demanded she tell me everything, the whole truth this time. She started crying again, just like she had 2 years ago. She admitted it. She told me that the affair had been going on for months, but she had been too afraid to tell me the full truth. She said she thought I'd never forgive her if I knew it wasn't just one night. And that's when it all clicked. Even in her so-called confession, she had been protecting herself. She didn't care about respecting me, about giving me the chance to make an informed decision. No, she was still manipulating me, still lying. She wanted to save herself from the consequences. Now, she's begging me to go back to couples therapy, to keep working on our marriage. She says it's all in the past, that we've made progress, and that we can keep rebuilding. But how can I trust her? How can I believe anything she says when the foundation of our so-called reconciliation was built on lies? The postnup gives me the power to leave her now, with a more favorable settlement. I could walk away and never look back. And part of me wants to. Part of me is screaming to get out, to free myself from the pain and the deceit. But there's still that small part of me, the part that loves her, the part that remembers the good times, that wonders if we can salvage what's left. If I can ever learn to trust her again. And that's where I'm stuck, caught between two impossible choices: to stay and risk another betrayal, or to leave and start over, alone. What would you do?